Hey guys! Today we're diving into another truly horrifying case. If you want to support my channel, make sure to subscribe and stay active. It really helps me out. I'd be super grateful for that. Let's get started. On the side of a deserted road in the state of Morelos, the lifeless body of a young woman was discovered. The passers-by who found her immediately contacted emergency services. The body lay motionless, her clothing appeared wrinkled and stained, and her skin showed visible signs of bruising and abrasions. No documents or personal belongings that could help identify her were found nearby. For the authorities, this marked the beginning of an investigation to shed light on what had happened and uncover the circumstances of this tragedy. Ariadna Fernanda Lopez Diaz was born on July 5, 1995, in one of the underprivileged neighborhoods of Mexico City. Her childhood was shaped by limited resources, but it was not devoid of warmth and care. Her family consisted of her mother and her older brother Omar. Despite the absence of a father figure who showed little interest in his children, the small family held together through mutual support. Omar became a role model and protector for Ariadna, offering her unwavering encouragement. Their close bond instilled in Ariadna a sense of security, knowing there would always be someone she could rely on. Ariadna was known for her warm and approachable personality, which made her popular among her peers. She had a natural ability to make friends and stood out for her sincerity and willingness to help others. Her school years were filled with the company of close friends, with whom she often shared her dreams about the future. However, her youth was marred by a profound loss. In 2018, when Ariadna was just 23, her mother was diagnosed with cancer. The illness progressed rapidly, and soon the family had to face the inevitable. Losing her mother was a devastating blow to both Ariadna and Omar. This tragedy not only strengthened their bond, but also forced Ariadna to mature quickly and take responsibility for her own life. In memory of her mother, she had her name tattooed as a permanent tribute, ensuring her mother's presence remained with her always. Before the loss of her mother, Ariadna had met a young man and soon entered into a relationship with him. Their romance moved quickly, and before long Ariadna learned that she was expecting a child. However, the arrival of her son did not bring the stability she had hoped for. The young couple soon realized their paths were diverging. After parting ways, they maintained a neutral relationship, jointly caring for their son. Becoming a mother brought new challenges. Ariadna had to balance the demands of parenthood with the search for work to provide for herself and her son. Her first step in this journey was a job at a popular bar in Mexico City. This establishment, frequented by affluent clients, had strict expectations for its staff. Here, Ariadna honed her ability to interact with a wide variety of people. Despite the difficulties, she excelled in her role, drawing on her charisma and strong work ethic to navigate the challenges she faced. The pandemic brought significant changes to her life. Losing her job due to the closure of the establishment where she worked, Ariadna refused to give in to despair. Instead, she used this period to pursue a long-held dream, opening her own beauty salon. This project became a symbol of her determination and desire to build a life independent of external circumstances. Drawing on her experience and extensive network, she successfully launched a business that provided her with a steady income. During this time, a new relationship entered her life. She met a man with whom she quickly connected. This relationship became a source of joy and stability for her. Ariadna balanced her time between her son, her work, and her partner. Her days were busy, but she managed it all, finding happiness in each new opportunity. By the age of 27, Ariadna's life resembled a completed puzzle, where every challenge and every achievement contributed to a picture of resilience and success. She had endured loss, rebuilt her life from scratch, cared for her son's future, and achieved independence. However, what seemed like the start of a happy chapter turned out to be the prelude to a tragedy. Ariadna met Vanessa through mutual acquaintances. Their interaction began at an event where Ariadna had gone with her friends. Vanessa immediately caught Ariadna's attention. Young, vibrant, and charismatic, Vanessa had a way of quickly connecting with people. However, those who knew her well had mixed feelings about her. Behind her apparent openness lay sharp edges, and her actions often surprised people with their unpredictability. Rautel, a middle-aged businessman, was a frequent presence in Vanessa's social circle. His reputation was shrouded in rumors. Known for his wealth, influence, and lavish lifestyle, he was often seen in the company of young women who sought to be part of his world. His status was bolstered by whispers of connections with powerful figures and even criminal networks. Yet no one in his circle could confirm these suspicions. Rautel avoided direct conversations about his past and business dealings, but his demeanor inspired both respect and unease. Though Ariadna was intelligent and independent, she didn't immediately recognize how different her new acquaintances were from her usual circle. Vanessa, eager to impress, often boasted about her connections with influential people, including Rautel. She painted him as someone capable of solving any problem. Gradually, Ariadna began spending more time with them. Vanessa seemed genuinely captivated by Ariadna and went out of her way to gain her trust. Rautel, learning about Ariadna through Vanessa, quickly took an interest in her. At their first meeting, he impressed her with his attentiveness and conversational skills. His charm and confidence were undeniably appealing, and Ariadna was no exception to his allure. However, behind this charm was a more complex personality. Those who had dealings with Rautel noted his manipulative tendencies. Ariadna, however, saw him as a courteous and kind man. Vanessa continued to play a key role in strengthening the connection between Ariadna and Rautel. She frequently invited Ariadna to gatherings where Rautel was present, creating an atmosphere of trust and openness. However, over time, peculiar details began to surface. For instance, some of Ariadna's friends warned her to be cautious around these people. A few were aware of Rautel's questionable reputation and Vanessa's unpredictable nature. They hinted that these relationships could pose hidden risks. Despite the warnings, Ariadna didn't perceive any danger in her new social circle. She saw her friendship with Vanessa as an opportunity to take a break from her daily responsibilities and explore a world that had previously been out of reach. Rautel, on the other hand, worked to win her over by demonstrating generosity and friendliness. His invitations to dinners and parties seemed interesting and harmless to her. As we know, Ariadna was in a relationship with a young man. However, this didn't stop her from maintaining friendships and occasionally accepting invitations to social events. Based on available information, her partner was a trusting person and didn't express dissatisfaction with her social interactions. Over time, Ariadna began to notice that her new connections were starting to influence her life. Vanessa frequently called her, suggesting meetups and planning outings for leisure. Rautel, meanwhile, increasingly tried to solidify his presence in Ariadna's life, often offering help and support in various situations. Without realizing it, Ariadna was gradually becoming immersed in their world, unaware of the potential consequences. On October 30th, 2022, Ariadna accepted an invitation from Vanessa to spend the evening with friends. The gathering was set to begin at Fisher's, a popular restaurant located in downtown Mexico City. Vanessa assured her that it would be a cozy evening with a relaxing dinner and good company. Rautel was also expected to join, which gave Ariadna a slight sense of unease. Despite her growing reservations about him, she didn't want to strain her friendship with Vanessa and decided not to decline. The group came together later that evening. The restaurant, known for its trendy clientele and upscale interiors, provided a lively backdrop for the gathering. The atmosphere at the table was lighthearted and festive. Wine, cocktails, and an array of appetizers added to the celebratory vibe. As usual, Rautel made himself the center of attention, sharing stories and raising toasts. He interacted confidently with the waitstaff and went out of his way to showcase his influence. Vanessa supported him, adding jokes and commentary to keep the conversation flowing. The other guests followed their lead, trying to match the energy of the evening's hosts. Ariadna's behavior stood out amidst the lively atmosphere. She didn't appear completely at ease, frequently checking her phone, reading messages, and typing out responses. Her gaze often lingered on Rautel, as if she were searching for some hidden meaning in his actions or words. Vanessa made efforts to distract her, pulling her into conversations and encouraging her to try another cocktail, but Ariadna remained reserved. Her expression revealed that something was troubling her more than the setting around her. Midway through the evening, Ariadna posted a cryptic message on her social media. "Would you miss me if I disappeared?" This post sent a ripple of concern among her close friends and family, though many in her broader circle dismissed it as a joke. However, those who knew Ariadna well noted that she had never written anything like this before. The post left an uneasy impression, though no one could have predicted it would be her last. As the evening went on, the group decided to move to Rautel's house. The suggestion came from Rautel himself, and Vanessa enthusiastically supported the idea, saying it would allow them to continue the evening in a more private setting. Ariadna hesitated, but eventually agreed after Vanessa urged her to join. The rest of the group followed suit, piling into Rautel's car for the short drive to his home. Rautel's house, located in an upscale neighborhood, underscored his status. The interior featured a modern design with luxurious touches. Upon arrival, the group settled in a spacious living room. The night continued with music and drinks, but Ariadna seemed increasingly uncomfortable. She stepped away several times, checking her phone and pretending to make calls. Her distant and focused demeanor didn't go unnoticed. Vanessa, observing this, began whispering with Rautel, which only heightened the tension. Closer to midnight, Ariadna announced that she wanted to head home, citing fatigue. Vanessa, however, convinced her to stay a little longer, suggesting they could leave in about half an hour. Rautel, unusually quiet at that point, occasionally glanced at Ariadna in a way that added to her unease. As the evening wound down and the other guests started leaving, Ariadna remained one of the last to depart. Tragically, no one from the group would see her alive again. The following morning, on October 31st, 2022, an event shook the community in Morelos. Two cyclists on an early morning ride stumbled upon a woman's body lying on the side of a remote road. The area was far from any major highways, in a location rarely frequented by locals. The surroundings emphasized the tragedy: desolate terrain, sparse bushes, and an unsettling silence. The woman was clothed, but her attire was dirty and appeared damaged. Her body showed multiple bruises and what looked like contusions. Witnesses immediately reported the incident to law enforcement, who arrived several hours later. In the meantime, the cyclists took photos of the scene to document the setting and potentially aid in identifying the victim. When the police arrived, they quickly cordoned off the area and began collecting evidence. Tire tracks were found in the dirt, along with marks suggesting the body had been moved. Forensic specialists noted clear signs of a struggle, but the initial cause of death was unclear. No visible weapon-related injuries were found, making it difficult to determine the exact circumstances of the tragedy. At the time, the woman's identity remained unknown, as no documents or personal items were found with her. Hours later, photos of the body began circulating on social media, sparking widespread discussion. Among those who saw the images were friends and family of Ariadna, who had been missing since attending a gathering at Rautel's house. Recognizing distinctive features of the victim, including tattoos, her brother Omar feared the worst. He filed a missing person report with the police and suggested that the woman found might be his sister. Meanwhile, the state authorities in Morelos launched their investigation. However, the initial response from the police faced heavy criticism. Evidence collection protocols were reportedly violated, and critical traces at the scene were poorly documented. This raised doubts about the integrity and professionalism of the local law enforcement. When Ariadna's relatives arrived to officially identify the body, their fears were confirmed. Omar recognized his sister by a tattoo on her shoulder that was a tribute to their late mother. For the family, it was a devastating shock, further compounded by the condition of her body. The bruises and injuries on her face and arms clearly indicated a violent incident. However, the police's official statements at the time provided little clarity and sounded unconvincing. The family's immediate response was a call for justice. They began demanding a transparent investigation and accountability for those responsible. That same day, they reached out to friends active on social media to bring attention to the case. What started as a small campaign quickly gained traction, drawing in thousands of people. Despite the mounting public pressure, the Morelos police maintained that the death might have been the result of an accident. They stated that further investigation would depend on the completion of a forensic examination. This stance only fueled more questions and deepened suspicions that influential individuals might be involved in covering up the truth. The first people investigators contacted were Rautel and Vanessa, as they were the last to see Ariadna alive. Their statements formed the foundation of the initial theories about what might have happened. In his initial account, Rautel claimed that after the party, Ariadna decided to leave his house by calling a taxi. He stated that she seemed a little upset, but didn't show any signs of serious distress. According to him, he walked her to the door, and she left, heading to an unspecified location. Vanessa supported his story, adding that Ariadna had indeed left in a taxi and hadn't mentioned her destination. However, inconsistencies in their version quickly raised suspicions. The first red flag was the lack of any evidence confirming a taxi ride. Neither Rautel nor Vanessa could provide the driver's contact information or any proof to back up their statements. Investigators later discovered that although several taxi calls had been logged in the area near Rautel's house that evening, none of the drivers reported picking up Ariadna. The second issue involved Vanessa's behavior. Her account shifted depending on the questions asked. Initially, she insisted that Ariadna had left alone. Later, she added that they'd had an argument during the party, which could have upset Ariadna. Moreover, Ariadna's friends told police that Vanessa had messaged them, attempting to suggest that Ariadna might have harmed herself, referencing the cryptic social media post Ariadna had made earlier that evening. The post, shared just hours before Ariadna's disappearance, had indeed raised questions. While her family and close friends initially dismissed it as a joke, investigators began to suspect it might reflect her true emotional state that night. Another troubling factor was Vanessa's increasingly erratic behavior. Her messages to Ariadna's friends showed that she was trying to downplay the situation and avoid providing details. In one text, she admitted she was afraid of being suspected, but didn't explain why. These signs further heightened investigators' suspicions that Vanessa might be withholding critical information. The initial findings of the investigation were inconclusive regarding the exact circumstances of Ariadna's death. However, subsequent efforts by law enforcement and independent experts unearthed crucial evidence. These findings were based on 2 autopsies, surveillance footage, and text messages recovered from the suspects' phones. The initial forensic report conducted in the state of Morelos claimed that Ariadna's death was caused by asphyxiation related to bronchial aspiration. The examiner suggested that food and alcohol in her airways might have led to her passing. However, this conclusion was immediately questioned by Ariadna's family. They pointed out the numerous bruises and injuries on her body that the report failed to adequately address. Despite the official findings, her family insisted on a second examination. Under pressure from the public and the family, Ariadna's body was sent to an independent forensic institute in Mexico City for further analysis. The results of the second autopsy completely contradicted the initial conclusions. Experts found multiple injuries, including head trauma, bruises, and evidence of physical force on her arms and legs, suggesting an attempt to defend herself. These findings confirmed that her death was not accidental or merely related to alcohol. Her passing was classified as the result of violent actions, prompting authorities to reclassify the case as a criminal act. Crucial to the investigation were surveillance videos obtained from the parking garage of Rautel's residence. One video showed Rautel carrying Ariadna's lifeless body to his car the morning after the party. The footage also captured him loading her body into the vehicle and leaving the premises. These recordings became indisputable evidence tying him to the movement of the body and its subsequent concealment. After investigators seized the phones of Rautel and Vanessa, they uncovered messages discussing their actions following the party. The texts revealed attempts to coordinate their stories for law enforcement and justify their behavior to Ariadna's friends. Vanessa expressed anxiety over the pressure from Ariadna's family, while Rautel reassured her that everything was under control. One message even contained detailed instructions on how to answer questions in a way that wouldn't raise suspicion. In Vanessa's conversations with Ariadna's friends, she repeatedly suggested that Ariadna might have been struggling with emotional distress, hinting at the possibility of self-harm. This narrative contradicted statements from Ariadna's friends, who described her as a cheerful and vibrant person with no signs of such tendencies. These inconsistencies further deepened suspicions about Vanessa's involvement. The evidence, results from the second autopsy, surveillance footage, and recovered messages, painted a clearer picture of what had happened. Investigators concluded that the initial claims of an accidental death or Ariadna voluntarily leaving Rautel's home did not align with reality. The evidence clearly pointed to the violent nature of Ariadna's death and the subsequent concealment of her body. These findings became the foundation for charges against Rautel and Vanessa, who would soon face trial for their actions. Vanessa was the first to be arrested. Investigators discovered that she had been in constant communication with Rautel in the days following the crime, discussing ways to evade responsibility. Her arrest took place under intense public scrutiny. During her initial interrogations, Vanessa claimed she had no involvement in Ariadna's death, but her statements were riddled with contradictions. Vanessa insisted that she had gone to bed early on the night of the incident and was unaware of what transpired afterward. However, a fact check of her claims revealed inconsistencies. Text messages showed she was fully aware of what had happened and had discussed the details with Rautel. Investigators also determined that Vanessa actively destroyed potential evidence by deleting photos, messages, and other incriminating information in an effort to obscure her involvement in covering up the crime. Realizing the mounting evidence against him, Rautel chose to turn himself in to authorities. Accompanied by his lawyers, he proclaimed his innocence, stating that he did not harm Ariadna, but panicked and attempted to hide her body out of fear of the consequences. According to his account, he found Ariadna unresponsive in his home the morning after the party, and believing she had passed away, decided to dispose of the body to avoid suspicion. However, his version of events raised serious doubts. First, the results of the second autopsy confirmed a violent cause of death, contradicting his claims. Second, surveillance footage showed him carrying the body with clear attempts to hide his actions rather than seeking help. Additionally, his text conversations with Vanessa revealed a coordinated effort to agree on false narratives about what had happened. As the investigation progressed, alarming information surfaced about potential corruption involving Rautel and the prosecutor's office in Morelos. The initial autopsy report conducted in the state had deliberately omitted references to injuries that clearly indicated violence. Activists and Ariadna's family accused the prosecutor of using their position to shield Rautel from accountability. These allegations ignited public outrage. Officials in Mexico City launched a review of the Morelos prosecutor's actions, and an internal affairs division opened an inquiry into possible misconduct. Some witnesses alleged that Rautel had connections to criminal groups, which might explain his apparent confidence in avoiding punishment. The case gained widespread attention, becoming a symbol of systemic issues within the justice system and highlighting the role of public pressure in pursuing justice. Further interrogations and collected evidence confirmed that at least one of the suspects knew more about the events of that night than they were willing to admit. However, neither Vanessa nor Rautel accepted direct responsibility, instead focusing their statements on mutual attempts to justify their actions. Their behavior only heightened suspicions and was a key factor in their temporary detention. The motives and circumstances surrounding the tragedy that unfolded that night became the subject of a lengthy and meticulous investigation. Uncovering the truth required a careful reconstruction of events, analysis of evidence, and a close examination of the behavior of everyone present at the party. Gradually, a clearer picture began to emerge, pieced together from conflicting testimonies, technical data, and psychological profiles of the suspects. That fateful evening began at a restaurant in downtown Mexico City, where Ariadna, Vanessa, and Rautel, joined by mutual friends, enjoyed dinner and drinks. Outwardly, everything seemed ordinary: laughter, conversation, and music, but subtle details hinted at underlying tension. According to witness statements and an analysis of text messages, Ariadna appeared unusually quiet and preoccupied. She frequently checked her phone, sending messages and answering calls, behavior that was uncharacteristic for her at social gatherings. This detail became critical later in the investigation. Her messages revealed that she had been texting a close friend, expressing unease about the party and concerns about some of the attendees. After leaving the restaurant, the group headed to Rautel's house. The property, surrounded by high walls and equipped with security cameras, was a frequent venue for private gatherings. Vanessa and Rautel acted as the hosts, but their dynamic seemed tense. Witnesses noted that Vanessa made several sharp remarks toward Ariadna, which the latter received with composure, trying to avoid confrontation. As the night progressed, alcohol began to influence the group's behavior. Vanessa, already emotionally charged, reportedly raised her voice multiple times, accusing Ariadna of being disrespectful and unfriendly. These accusations didn't resonate with others in the group but added to the escalating tension. Rautel, meanwhile, appeared to remain neutral but was visibly uncomfortable with Vanessa's behavior. A pivotal moment came early the next morning, when witnesses reported seeing Ariadna attempting to leave the party. She was briefly seen outside the house, but returned shortly afterward. Investigators determined that during this time, Vanessa continued to confront Ariadna, leading to an open conflict. While the exact details of the altercation remain unclear, investigators suspect that Vanessa accused Ariadna of drawing too much attention from Rautel. Messages retrieved from the phones confirmed that Vanessa and Rautel had discussed tense moments from that night. After most of the guests had left the party, only a few people remained in the house, including Vanessa, Rautel, and Ariadna. According to investigators, Vanessa, who was reportedly heavily intoxicated, began displaying aggressive behavior. It was during this time that an incident is believed to have occurred, resulting in the fatal injuries sustained by Ariadna. Why did Ariadna post such a strange message on social media that night? Initially dismissed as a joke, the post took on a different meaning as the investigation unfolded. Friends later confirmed that Ariadna may have felt uneasy due to Vanessa's behavior and the overall atmosphere at the gathering. The post might have been a way to express her discomfort, attract attention, or perhaps even serve as a subtle warning. The reconstruction of events suggests that Vanessa's jealousy, exacerbated by alcohol and emotional instability, played a central role in the tragedy. Rautel, likely attempting to cover up what had happened, only worsened the situation with his actions. This combination of factors led to the devastating outcome, which might have been avoided if the party's environment had not been so tense and volatile. Ariadna's 6-year-old son was left in the care of her older brother, Omar. As the only father figure in the boy's life, Omar stepped in to provide not only financial but also emotional support. He took on the responsibility of raising his nephew, striving to preserve memories of Ariadna and surround him with the love she had always given during her life. This decision brought the family closer together, as other relatives and friends also contributed to helping the boy cope with his loss and providing him with a nurturing environment. Ariadna's family remained active in the fight to uncover the full truth about her death. They organized protests, launched social media campaigns, and garnered public attention. A significant achievement was drawing the focus of international media, which helped increase pressure on the Mexican judicial system. The preliminary court hearings regarding Ariadna's death became a pivotal moment in the pursuit of justice. Despite resistance from certain authorities, the family and their legal team ensured that the case was handled transparently, with all relevant evidence considered. Each step of the investigation and trial was closely monitored by the public and the media, leaving little room for any facts to be hidden or distorted. The trial began with a focus on the roles of Rautel and Vanessa. During court proceedings, prosecutors presented key evidence, including surveillance footage, phone call records, and data from text messages. These materials demonstrated not only the suspects' involvement in concealing the body, but also their potential role in the violent actions that led to Ariadna's death. The defense attempted to challenge the evidence, arguing that the tragedy was an unfortunate accident. However, numerous testimonies and forensic analyses cast significant doubt on that version of events. One of the central objectives of the trial was to determine the motives behind the crime. Witnesses familiar with Vanessa described her as impulsive and prone to aggressive behavior, which was often exacerbated by alcohol. Rautel, on the other hand, was portrayed as someone with a questionable past and alleged ties to criminal networks, raising additional concerns about his involvement in the events of that night. While the defendants denied responsibility for Ariadna's death, their statements were inconsistent with the evidence, further fueling suspicions. A verdict in Ariadna's case has not yet been reached, as the investigation and court proceedings remain ongoing. Based on the evidence gathered, prosecutors have filed charges for her death, with the case potentially classified as femicide, a crime involving gender-based violence, which is considered an aggravating factor under Mexican law. If convicted, both defendants could face up to 70 years in prison. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.